What's up, guys? Welcome back to IT Security Labs. Thank you for joining our live stream here today. We have a really fun machine and it's called Raven2. And this is our weekly live streams where we actually learn network security monitoring, and then we also attack machines. So we will learn how to monitor traffic as it moves across your network, and then get to see what the good guys see in intrusion detection systems like Security Onion. So I appreciate everybody who's joining us tonight. And Matthew, it's good to see you, man. Matthew has been here with us since the beginning. We've been doing this for almost a year now. So it's good to see you, Matthew, that you are still joining us. Yeah, this is a really fun machine, Raven2. You can download it from Vulnhub. And it's rated as intermediate. I think it will be hard for a lot of people because of the privilege escalation. But at the same time, there's really cool things that we'll be working on. And after that, we'll also analyze our traffic here to see what we have actually done, which will make things really interesting. So without wasting time here, let's actually go through the network diagram quick because I haven't shown you guys this in a long time. So as you can see here, we actually have a firewall, which is letting us live stream right now. Then we have a machine called Raven2. This is running in a Windows machine right here in VirtualBox. And what I have is that machine is connected to a switch. Then there is a port mirroring happening on this layer 3 switch to a VMware ESXi that is hosting Security Onion. So it's a super simple setup. Once you have this setup where you're mirroring the traffic to your Security Onion, you're pretty much ready to start the attack. In this case, you have the attacker here, which is Kali Linux, going through Wi-Fi, attacking this machine here. And as the attack is happening, a copy of that traffic is sent to an intrusion detection system. And that's how we are actually able to detect this traffic here and end up with alerts like this. All right. So now that we know how it's set up, if you want to set it up, I have 12 videos that will show you how to do it on my channel. So go ahead and set it up yourself as well if you're interested. Otherwise, this is my Kali Linux machine here. Let's exit out of here for a second. I haven't upgraded to the 2020 version of Kali. I will be doing that soon. But right now I have a directory named Raven2. I actually have a temp directory in here. And usually what I like to do when I get started here is start with an nmap -sv -sc. SV, we're enumerating for service versions. So if we find any services that are running, we'll get versions. SC will put default nmap scripts. Let's put all ports here. 1 and 2, 168, 38, it's at 67. You can do a net discover to find this IP address, or you can use your DHCP server. In this case, I use my DHCP server to find it. So usually I start with a simple ping to make sure that it's working. So let's do that here. Because we don't want to be attacking a dead machine. All right. So as we do an nmap scan here, remember the goal for this lab is for us to actually learn how to detect attacks as they are happening. This is a dumb attacker who is just running nmap out of the box, no custom script. We should be able to detect this with our intrusion detection system. Our nmap finished here. We did see that we have a bunch of ports here. But before we start even looking at these ports, our intrusion detection system, which I showed you earlier, should have caught this. In this case, we're using Security Onion. In Security Onion, which is a very it's super simple to set up actually. You can go to the alerts section. Let's put these alerts to the last maybe 2 hours instead of 24. You'll notice that we do have 41 detected ET scan user agent. It's a scanner, likely scan. Let's drill down on this to see if we can actually find if it's nmap. All right. Let's pick one. Usually it says nmap here. All right, so this is not the nmap one. Let's see if we can index that one again. Let's just put it to 24 because I think it's still indexing in the back. We should see an nmap user agent with a lot of data in there. Since I scanned for all the ports, we should see, right, that's what I was expecting. Nmap scripting engine. So like I say every week, the biggest takeaway is if you're going to be doing a pen test engagement, do not use tools like Nmap if you are afraid of getting caught. Make your own custom scanners that do not have a user agent setup. Because if we look at the data that Nmap does send, it actually sends a user agent that most of the rules out there are able to actually find. So let's actually see if we can find one. So I can show you where it sets the user agent. Right here. All right, so our nmap completed. It was caught by our intrusion detection system right away off the gate. We are not hiding here. We see that we have port 22, which is really interesting, right? SSH, but looking at this version, it's a newer version. You can try to brute force SSH, but usually brute forcing is our last resort. So we move on to the next port 80. It does say it's Apache 2.4. So with port 80, what I like to do is right away, let's run Nicto. Minus H, is it 192.168? 38.67. Nicto should just quickly do a scan on our site. Let's also visit the website. All right. It's loading a browser. So Nicto, we use it to scan websites pretty much so that we can see if there's any easy wins or vulnerabilities. In this case, we are running an old version of Apache, which is fine. We already know the version here. Here are the methods that are allowed. Let's see if Nicto will finish and give us more information here. We'll run go bust after Nicto is done, but we also want to go and visit the site because we want to see what we are dealing with. 192.168, 38.67. And when we visit a website, what we are looking for is we want to know what are they using to host this website. Does this website tell us anything about maybe the users? Is there someone who is posting things that we can try to brute force? Usually all the way at the bottom, it should say powered by or whatever. This one doesn't tell us. It looks like we do have default text from templates. So they actually picked a default template from the internet. So this website is not helping us much. But we can run go bust against it as well. Let's check Nicto first. All right, so Nicto is finding some directories, which is fine. We'd like to go and run go buster. Hey BT and React, it's good to see you guys. Thanks for joining. All right, let's fire up go buster. So in my enumeration, I try to make sure that I don't spend too much time on syntax, because syntax is the last thing I want to worry about. I always like to use medium.txt. If I don't find anything, I'll move to big.txt, or if I find subdomains, I'll use subdomains. But for now, here's my go buster. This saves me from typing and also dealing with a lot of useless syntax, since we already know what the tool does. All right, so go buster. Our IP address is going to be 192.168.38.67. So go buster should get caught by our intrusion detection, And right away, GoBuster also shows us that we have a WordPress site, which is good because we can run WP scan against this thing. But while it's running, let's go and check our results here. Since we are running a GoBuster and a Nikto, let's go to our alerts again. All right. So this is what I think Nikto does. Remember, we had Nmap scripting engine here. Our alerting system is telling us we also have another one. I think this is the one for Nikto. And these tools, they all set up a user agent. So this one says user agent containing security scanner. I don't think we've actually seen Nikto on this channel yet. So this will be the same. Hopefully you can see the trend here with these tools. Let's see. I'm looking at network.decoded here because that's the field that I like to look at. So that was, and let's see about this one. Who was trying to cause a cross-site scripting? I'm very interested in this one. All right, so yeah, that's our good friend Nikto. You see, Mozilla User Agent Nikto, even the version number of Nikto that we are running. So this is really good stuff because we know all these tools get detected. But going back to our scan here, let's go. We do see that WordPress is here. So we have another tool we can throw here, which is WP scan. But let's go check /WordPress. Is it WP-admin? I'm looking for an admin page here. All right. I think between this and my Nikto, I'm flooding my server, causing myself a denial of service. Let me stop my Nikto here. That way it might speed things up a little bit. All right. So now going back to our WordPress server. Okay, so it's resolving to Raven.local. Let's actually do that right now. I almost forgot. This is what you want to do. Then let's add. Do I have Raven in here? See, I have a lot of machines that need to go. Let me reuse this one. 192.168.38.67. Let's add our name, Raven.local. All right. Now that we did that, let's see if we can get there. Because our WordPress server was actually resolving to its fully qualified domain name, so we needed to make sure that we can get there. So that's why we did that. Let's make sure. All right, let me make sure that I don't have another Raven in here. 192.168.38.67. That looks good. All right, anyway, there's a WordPress instead of loading it, let's actually do a WP scan. Let's try to enumerate a few things here. HTTP URL, HTTP 192.168.38.67. And as we do a WP scan, again, this is another tool that also gets caught. Now, I guess you see the idea here. But let's look at this from a different angle, because we are now running our tools here. We can go to Kibana, which will make our lives even easier. Once we get in here, first we will notice right away that we actually see spikes in traffic as we do the attack. I've actually practiced a couple of times. Let's refresh this. The count, we have 417,367 events from the last 24 hours. Let's change this to the last 2 hours. Oh, but as you can see here, this is when we started our attack. We are going almost to 300,000 events from running all these kind of tools here, which for a security professional, this should alarm you right away that something serious might be happening on your network, because all of a sudden, if your baseline was you get a few, maybe 2,000 events here, and all of a sudden you hit 300,000, then this is something is happening. And hopefully your alerts can actually wake you up from your sleep so you can see that something is really happening. All right, so I said I wanted to change this to 2 hours because I don't want to load all that data. These alerts are going to be identical to what we saw here within the Security Onion interface. This is just a different way of viewing the alerts, and it's actually cleaner. I like this better. As you can see, we do have our Nmap scripting engine here. We also have a possible CVE, which we'll see in a little bit here. All right, our WP scan is saying, do we want to update? It's a no from us. So let it run. And Go Buster finished, so we didn't see anything other than WordPress, which is interesting. So now I need to find out why my Raven.local is not resolving. Why is it not resolving? Let's ping it. So it's ping response. WordPress doesn't want to load. Or maybe I don't have a /WordPress. I just have Raven.local. All right, for whatever reason, it doesn't want to load the actual WordPress site, but WP scan should still work for us. We should still be able to see things here. In this case, I didn't see anything. No config found. Let's run it again. -E. Let's enumerate some users. I don't think we'll be able to find some users this time with this version of Raven. Raven 1, we found some users, but I don't think we'll find any in this one, because the creator might have patched the machine. Awesome. Yeah, I'll show you the network setup in a little bit here. So we did find a readme.txt. We found WP content, and we have an uploads, WP content cron. So we are finding interesting stuff. And in fact, we did find users, Michael and Steven, which is cool. So we can document that we did find Michael and Steven as the two users. Let's enumerate vulnerable plugins using WP scan. This is if you ever see a WordPress site, this is what you will actually be doing. Hey, what are the users? There's a way to enumerate all of them at once, but I like to actually be intentional about what I'm scanning, and so that I can actually specifically look for things. So we're looking for any plugins that might be vulnerable. Since we found 2 users, the logical thing would be to try to sign in on the admin page with one of those users, maybe brute force it if you can, or try to find their passwords. But in this case, I'll save us some time. We actually do not have any vulnerabilities for the WP admin login, and I didn't find any plugins here. So that ends our that ends our WordPress scan. But I was curious why my WordPress wasn't loading. Let's see if it loads this time. All right, there we go. There is our WordPress site. When you get here, you're also looking for any post to see if Michael, one of those users, is actually the one who keeps posting or not. If it's not, then you just move on to maybe the next logical thing. Looking at our Go Bust again, let's see. I think I saw another file that I forgot to visit. We had a /vendor. This was from our Go Buster results. Let's see if let me make sure that I still have them or not. This one. We checked this, it's a dead end, but we did find 2 users. Then we have a manual JS/vendor here. Let's check that one. This is interesting because if you look through these things, here's a license. You notice that it's just a generic license. This path gives us the first flag number 1. So we can collect that if you're into the flags. Changelog is always interesting. We have a README. We also have a PHP mailer. Let's load that. It's a blank page. Let's see if we notice anything in the source. Nothing. So it's now just a matter of searching here the version. So we have a PHP mailer and 5.16 is the version. So the logical thing is, okay, and we have a version. And when I do these searches, I'm looking for remote code execution, because since I don't have a user or anything like that, remote code execution is going to be my best friend here. And look, we are in luck here. We even have a video for the proof of concept. So if you wanted to watch a video, you can. But we're 5.18. Let's see. So here is one. And this is a PHP code that can work. Actually, this is good. So we need to go through this exploit here and just read a little bit. I wonder if there's a Python version for this, because if it says PHP, I like to edit Python better. So let's go to Sexploit here. I wonder how many. All right, so yeah, that's the same version here. I can actually see that for the same version, this is 5.218. What version did this thing tell me that it is? 5.216 or earlier. Okay, so this should work because it's PH2 mailer 5.218 or earlier. So these look good. So I'm pretty sure that one of the PHP was this one. But since I prefer to go with Python, I'll just move to this one. Because I like to edit Python better, because I at least can understand and debug that code better. So let's go and download that exploit. I'm going to put it in my temp folder here. And to download this, we can just use search exploit. Because that exploit, we have a vulnerable PHP mailer, which I think is for email or something. Search exploit -m, and that path will download the exploit here. All right. Let's edit it. All right, so looking at this exploit here, and what we had here is the same thing. So I'm good with that. So after reading this exploit and trying to understand what it's doing, I think it's easier to read from here. Let's do that. So this exploit, we need to understand it in order for us to customize it to our needs. And this is why this machine is a little difficult for people. First, we need to change the target. Target is set to localhost on port 8080. Well, we know a thing or two about our target. Our target is not running on port 8080. So this port is gonna go. And our target is actually just the IP address. So let's go and change that in our code here. Let's insert. That's a nice graphic they have over there. Oh, we know that we don't have 8080. 192.168.38.67. That's just the target. We might need to edit this depending on what's happening here, but we are putting a backdoor. It's named backdoor.php, but we don't want to be too generic. Let's put our own name here. I'm going to tell you to subscribe. It's going to be called subscribe.php. All right, so what's happening here? We have a target, then we will put a payload. So that means that we need to be able to write to our target to put this backdoor here. That's going to be named subscribe.php. Inside of this PHP file, we're putting this payload here, which is just PHP, and we're executing Python reverse shell, which is just the generic one. But we want it to send a reverse shell back to us, so we need to change this IP address again to our Kali Linux IP address. So we need to put 38. What is Kali's IP? 63. So that's what we need to put right here. All right, port 444 may be a little boring. Let's put our custom port 5353. All right, so this is the payload. What happens here is after we put the payload there, it looks like we are trying to execute an email. Get an email to a directory on the server. In this case, it's going to www/backdoor.php. All right, so we need to find a location on our server that we can write to. And the easiest one for any website is the contact us page. If the website has a contact us page, we can see if we can write to that. We have a contact here. All we need to find out is where does that go. So we do, and we have a form here that we can write to. So let's put that contact in here. First, we put it up here, because we need a place that we can write to. Is it .php? And then let's change this to, instead of www, it's going to be in /var www, and then this is in the HTML. You can go and check where the location for that file. And our exploit is called subscribe, instead of whatever the name that they had. So now we have a custom path here for our exploit. We didn't change anything except what we know is not what they have in the exploit. We have our port, we have our custom exploit, we have the real machine, and our port is 5353. Well, what we need to do now is just come here and say netcat minus lv and p on 5353. And then let's listen for that, because that's a port. Let's escape. Wait, did I accidentally put some extra text in here? All right. I think this is in Python 3. We don't even need to make it into an executable. Let's execute it with Python 3 and see if it works. If it works, it should just tell us that it executed. And it says here, exploited the machine. We exploited contact us.php. You see, we're still listening here. All we need to do is now visit that exploit that we just put out there. You will know by going through the exploit here that that's what we need to do. To visit it, we can visit the site, or we can just use curl, the curl command. I think since I'm already here, let's do it. The reason why I'm going here is because I put it in var www HTML file, so it should be in the main directory for the site. All right, subscribe.php. If I execute that, it should hang. What happened? Let's make sure that we have everything correct here. And this is what happens when you're working with exploits. It's a little bit of debugging and kind of knowing where you made some changes. Such var www html subscribe.php. Okay, let me see. I'm just going to compare that one to my earlier. Make sure that I didn't make any funny changes here. All right. var www html. Yeah, it should be the same. So why is it not finding it? Let's get the exploit again. That's interesting. And the exploit said it succeeded. Okay, let's try that one more time. All right, let's name it something different. I'm going to name it, let's see. exploit.php. Since I already uploaded it with one name, I just want to make sure that this time it's actually going to work. Another thing that I could have done wrong is the path to where I'm writing it. I need to make sure that I put that one correct as well. Let's check that. exp. So this name here has to match what you put above there. All right. Python 3. 40. And we run the exploit. It looks like the exploit likes that, which is good. Oh, wait a second. My backdoor, did I change that name? You want to make sure that we, yeah, I think I did. Yeah, exp.php, okay. All right, that looks like it's working. If it hangs like this, that means that it's working. So with exploits, you always kind of have to mess with them. And I think that's where a lot of people are filtered out, because they are not patient enough to really figure out how exploits work. So what I was just doing there, being patient with your exploits. If it doesn't work, go figure out why and where things could have gone wrong. But as you can see here with my exploit, I was able to get a reverse shell. I can do an ID, and I can see that I'm in as www data. So what we want to do now is, let's fix this shell because I don't like how it looks. I think it's running Python 2. You can ask the machine if what version of Python is running by asking like that. It's running Python 2, so we stabilize that. We export term. This is not a fully functional shell even after I do this. There's one more step, but usually I just want the ability to clear my screen. So in here, I can do an ls and see a few things. As you can see, here are a few shells that I had put in here. You will also notice that we do have a WordPress site here. But if we go one directly down, you see that we have flag2.txt, so we can view that. We found the first one earlier. Now this is the second flag. Hopefully it works. So that reverse shell that we just got, we should be able to go and see that we got a reverse shell. So let's go to our intrusion detection, because we don't want to forget what why we're doing this here. We want to be able to detect these things. So let's go to our hunt interface. I don't even want to do a search. Let's see if I can see my port here. 5353. Maybe there's an index here. Or maybe it's a source port. Let's see. I'm just sorting my ports here to see if I can quickly get 5353. Otherwise, you can search for this. Oh, this is 35,000. We're using a lot of high value ports. Okay, let's go to Kibana. This is why I like Kibana. Let's search for that port. In Kibana, you can see the same attack traffic. As you can see here, this is where we spiked when we started our attack. We actually are generating about 80,000 events at some point. We did that. Now, since we are not brute forcing anymore, we see a normal, or relatively normal, but slightly higher value. Okay, so let's do a source port 5353. The trouble that I run into by doing this is that 5353 is what we use for sometimes DNS in here. So that might not help me. But let me show you when we use 4444. See if we can find that. Where's my... Let's put this to the last 24 hours. We should be able to see traffic to 4444. This is the same reverse shell that we got, and we should see that there was an attack that happened, and this is all Zeek traffic. So this is the traffic that was caught when we did a reverse shell on port 444. And we should be able to tell because the client IP is our victim machine, and the source, the client IP was our Kali Linux, and the destination should be our victim machine, which is 67. And it's a broken event, so we can tell that something happened here. Going back to our hunt here, let's see if I can just find 4444 as well, because we know that it's there. Suricata should have caught it. Let me use it when it was on destination. We have way too many events here. That's why we can't see. I need to find a way to actually learn how to search within here, because right now I know how to search in Kibana, but the port should be here. We can find it in a little bit. All right, so we found our flag, which is flag number 2 here. But if we go back to our directory where we were in our HTML, we have this WordPress site. Every time I see WordPress, I always want to find the config file for WordPress, because most of the time there is a username and password in there. At least for these CTFs. So we want the wp-config.php. You always want to check that file. By now, I'm just thinking I can write a script that will go and grab the information from here. So as you can see, like I said, we do have a DB user root and a password here. These attackers, the creators of this machine were not that sophisticated. Of course, in the real world, hopefully people will not be putting passwords in plain text like this, but this is what we have here. So since we have a database, let's see if we actually have a MySQL, or is it netstat -l or something? Yeah, we should be able to see if we are actually listening. And here is MySQL, our database. It's listening on localhost. So let's sign in. We found the username and password, which I just wrote down here. Let's sign into the database and dump the users, or steal the user hashes, as people like to say. All right, to do that, if it was a different host, you could have put somewhere there -h for host. You don't need this in this case, I don't think. -p, we're asking for it to prompt us for the password. Then let's type our password. And we're in. First thing, show me some databases. We do see MySQL, the default database. Then we see WordPress. Remember, WP Scan showed us 2 users, right? So we should see the users in here and their password hashes. Okay. Show me some tables. Usually you have things like this, WP post, WP underscore users. Let's see some post. I just happen to know that there's 2 flags in there. Select all from. There we go. So if you scroll through these posts, you see that we have flag 3. I think we can keep scrolling until we see some flags here. So you can kind of read the post just in case there's something interesting in there. So we do have a flag 3.png, which is in there. We can see that later. All right, let's select all from WP users, because that's the interesting file. I don't know why I always forget the from. WP_users. And as you can see, here's Steven and Michael. We do have their hashes here. Let's just do a quick steal of these hashes. Okay, and this is for, I'm putting them in this syntax because I want John to crack them. So that's the first hash. And here's Michael's hash. All right. So we can use John for to crack this, and the syntax actually, I'll just use my cheat sheet to make sure that we don't forget. But it's just John. Then you give John a word list, and then the name of the file. So John word list. We're going to use roq.txt. So we are cracking the password hashes right now using John. This might take a long time depending on your machine, and you'll get 2 passwords that you can try to SSH. You can try to sign in WP, sign into WP admin, which might be helpful, but in this case, it doesn't really help that much. Since we have a MySQL, let's check here the version of this MySQL, and the command to check version is show variables like, you can then put a wildcard here. We want version. I think that should work. This will look for the instances within MySQL for version. Why? Because when we scanned with Nmap, we didn't see MySQL, but now we actually see the MySQL service. And you will notice that we do have 5.560. If you go and search for this MySQL version for privilege escalation, you will notice that there is an exploit for this version. So we'll jump back into yet another exploit to actually do privilege escalation here. But let's see. Yeah, another way that you can find that this version is vulnerable is you can upload linps. Linps will also come back and say, hey, by the way, I found MySQL version 5.560 and it's vulnerable to this exploit. Let's see if such exploit will give us that. I don't think the exact version will work. Usually it's like part, or maybe not. This is a denial of service. We don't want a denial of service. All right, so as you can see here, we have a lot. But this one says privilege escalation. So we can read this one, see what it says, because we are more interested in privilege escalation than anything. Let's see if we can read this one. Oh, I forgot the search exploit command to read. Is it search exploit minus X, I think? But anyway, I can also cheat like this and be able to see. Okay, here is the source. MySQL is prone to a remote privilege. Okay. I don't think this is the one. But we do get a document here if we wanted to go and read about it. And this is what attacking is all about, being able to find information, read about it, without a lot of noise, and quickly get some answers as fast as you can. And if you're not that patient with this process, you might see that things might be a little hard, especially when you see exploits. People who succeed at this stuff actually end up being really patient and can do research super fast. All right, so this one doesn't work. If we look online as well, if you do some more digging through those results from Sexploit or Exploit DB, one of the exploits that you will notice there that actually works is this one. The reason why it didn't come from my search is because I had put 5. In this case, this is the name of the actual exploit. So in hindsight, this is the command we should have ran. We could have grabbed for privilege escalation from here, from all this noise, and still seen this exploit. And I want us to get to the exploit right away, because then we can actually spend some time working with it. This exploit is more involved, so we actually need to know what it's doing, how to run it, then run it. And that's why I don't want to spend too much time showing you how to do Google searches here. But after you look through the exploits, first it actually covers our version, because it's our version is 5 point something, and it's here. And it looks like we can just download this exploit, and we got the commands to actually compile it. We use GCC, WL. This Raptor is the name of the compiled part. Then once we compile it, we need to sign into MySQL, and then use the MySQL database, create a table, or we can name this table whatever we want. Then we can insert in that table the name of the file from the location that it's on the machine, which we need to know where we put it. So it's probably not going to be in the home Raptor, because we don't have this directory, which is something to know. Then we need to create a function. Okay, so what happens is, once we have the compiled exploit, we can create a function within MySQL, and this function allows us to run commands on the system as root. Because once we create a function here, we can actually run a select to see that the function is created. And then once you create a function, you can run this select do system, which is the function. And inside of these brackets here, you can run any command that you want. So it's just a matter of choice here. What do we want to run as root? We can run the command to go and read the flag from the root directory and call it a day. Or we can create a new user, which is going to be what I want to do. Or we can make Michael a root user. There's many things you can do, but I would like to create a new user here. So this is the exploit that we will be using. How does it work? Well, first you need to download it by clicking here and save it. Then once we download it, let's do this one. Let's go to our machines directory. Raven2, I would like you to do my temp directory here. Let's copy that exploit from the downloads. What is the name of the exploit? All right, John is still cracking the yeah, he's still cracking the hashes. Let's not do that. We found a way to move on without the hashes. So the exploit is called 1518.c. I'm just looking at where I had downloaded it before. On 518, not 40 something. All right, so we're going to copy that exploit here. All right, now that we have the exploit, let's just follow the instructions that they gave us. Let me see if I can pull this off by doing a side-by-side here. Okay, forget the side-by-side. I'll be switching the tabs. I need to figure out how to do that in this version of Kali, but I'll walk you through the exploit. Well, first, we need to run GCC against the name of the exploit. As you can see, the name of the exploit is not even the same. It's not named Raptor. So what can we do to make our lives easier? Well, I'll tell you. In order for us to just do a simple copy and paste, let's change the name of the exploit to this name so we can just do a simple copy and paste. Let's move the exploit because I don't like to work too hard. All right, it's the same exploit. I wanted to have the name that they have there. Now I have it here. Now it's just a matter of copy and paste. So first we do a GCC, go back here. We should verify at every stage that it worked. ls, there is our output. That's the first step. Next, we're running this whole thing. This is why I like to just use the same name as them. I'm compiling it on my Kali Linux. And usually when you're compiling things on your Kali, make sure that it's actually the same version as the machine. I don't want to forget that. This machine here from our version here says 64-bit. So I'm compiling it on my 64-bit Kali Linux machine. So if you compile a 64-bit exploit, an exploit on a 64-bit Kali and your version, your victim is 32-bit, it will not work. So always keep in mind on that. And if you need to change, just use -M32 to specify 32-bit if you're on a 64-bit like myself. That's the switch that you use during the GCC command. GCC -M32 specify 32-bit. All right, so now that we have the Raptor SO, we have covered 2 steps from our exploit. Now they're saying, oh, sign into MySQL. User root and password. Okay. But we need to sign on our victim, not on my Kali. So where is my victim machine? Did I accidentally close my... Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm already in here, which is good. So this step is already taken care of. We start from here. Use MySQL. Let's paste that. So we switched our database from WordPress to MySQL. You can do show tables here. There isn't much. It says insert full, like that. But See the problem? It's asking us to insert this file from this directory. We don't have that directory. So let's exit MySQL here for a second. Let's go to our temp. And here, in our temp, let's move this exploit that we just compiled to our victim machine. So let's move this. In our main Kali Linux, let's just launch Python 3 HTTP server, module http.server. Let's put it on port 80 just in case. All right, let's use wget. One and 2, 68, 38. Our Kali is 63, and we just want this file because that's what we need to use. All right. Now that we did that, you probably don't need this to do this, but I like to give it all permissions that it can have just in case. All right. So now we have our exploit here. We created it. We know it lives in here /temp. So when we go to MySQL command, we should know where it is and replace this with our temp directory instead of the home blah 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 stuff. Right. So let's go back to our exploit. All right, the password, I have it here, Raven security. Okay, now the exploitation continues. Use MySQL. All right. And then it says, okay, let's create this first. I'm going to change a few things here. Since I've already used full, I need to change that from full to whatever I want. And then change it to hacked. Okay, that's going to make my copy paste different now. So we'll just be changing every single part of this to my hacked, but you don't need to do that. We're creating a table named hacked. And then once we come back here, then we say insert into that table our exploit. So we need to change, and then we need to change this to, that's our temp directory. That should work. So you see, knowing a little bit about what you're doing can be then important here. All right, so it did insert it from our temp. Then let's move on to the next step. We need to run a select. We need to keep changing. Our table is not full. It's hacked. And this is not in that directory. It's in the temp. So now that should work. This is the benefit of watching live. Then you can actually see how people deal with these exploits. Right, I get an error that says file already exists. Okay, it's in there. All right, last part. We need to create a function. This is the most important one. Because if this function doesn't create, the function is going to be called do system return integer. All right. All right, so I don't need to change anything in this one. Let's create the function. All right, so the only reason why it says the function already exists is because I created it with my other full, but we now have a function here. We can check for the function and make sure that it's in there by running this select query here. We should see the function in there. Here's do system. Earlier I had named it exp1, so that's what I'm going to use again. And this is where we can pause a second and say, okay, now that we have the function, we need to know, what does the function do? What does it allow us to do? In this case, our exploit does tell us we can run any commands in here. In this case, they are just running, looks like they were just setting ID to temp out. We don't want that. We don't want that. No, I would like to create a user. So here's why I'm saying I would like to create a user. Instead of just going and just dropping into root, what we can do is we can create a user on the system, give them root permissions. But first, before we create a user, we need to generate a user password. Let's generate a user password using OpenSSL, passwd. This is a good one. All right, so if we do that, this is the password. We named it subscribe. Then the next thing we need to do is then run a select command that creates a password. In this case, let me just create a new password, but let's copy from here. This is the command we need to run. Let's make this command do what we want. Thanks for the super chat, Slinky. Appreciate it, man. All right. So as you can see here, we can run any command that we want here. So let our command be the one to create a user. I'll name the user whatever we want, but let's just remove all this stuff here because we like to create a user instead. How do we create a user on a system? Especially if we don't have access to the actual system, we can use our good friend Echo. Echo, then we open. Let's name this user, I'll open some brackets. I'll name it hacked. And then this is the syntax. Once we have the user, we need to give the user a password. In this case, this is the password we just generated. In this case, which is subscribe. All right. So let's go back here. Or you can look up how to create a user using Echo. And then once we have that, we can do this 0, 0, I think. Then we need him to be root. That's the whole point of creating this user. Root. I had to Google how to create a user from the terminal because I forgot the syntax. So if you see me looking here, I'm just looking it up. So let me show you the final command so we don't waste too much time getting bogged into syntax. I like to be efficient with my time. Syntax is the last thing I want to worry about, especially once I already know. Okay, so this is the syntax for creating the user. Using the echo, the user password, give them root privilege, make sure that they can run bin bash. Let's go and run that. And where did we get this select command? We got it from here. That's what they told us from the exploit. We just chose to not do what they are doing here. We can do that, but why would we do that when we can just get access directly? All right. Looks like it did succeed, and we created a user called hacked. Let's get out of there. Switch user to Sometimes I even give my user SSH privilege to make my backdoor even more persistent. I'm not going to do this time. And we're in. So this was a little difficult, as you can see. I mean, going through this exploit, it's a little easier because you can read it. But after we got to our user with root privileges, we're now here. Now we can go to cd/root. Here's flag 4. All right, this is a really fun machine. Thanks to this guy. Make sure to follow him on Twitter and also subscribe to my channel if you like this type of stuff. It's really fun for me. I enjoy this a lot. It's very exciting. But we're missing one thing here. We need to go back and do an autopsy. I mean, we have uploaded some shells. We need to go track down our reverse shell. Did the good guys detect the reverse shell after we uploaded it? Did any of these commands that we ran get detected by the intrusion detection system? That is really interesting things to go and find. Because, I mean, attacking is fun. Detecting is even more interesting. So first, let's just do a quick review of our alerts. This is the default installation of Security Onion. I didn't add any specific rules or anything like that. And I'm actually behind. We generated a lot of traffic. Here's some scans. Who was the biggest talker of all the tools that we used? This one here. Who was it? Let's find out. It's definitely not Nmap. I think we figured this one out. This alert is classified as attempted information leak. And this was WP scan. WP scan, the tool when we were scanning for users and things like that. This is what we found. So now we know if you run WP scan against your client, you're going to get caught. It's not the smartest thing to do because WP scan, according to us here, was the biggest talker. Usually it's GoBuster if you let it run all the way. But in this case, it was just WP scan. Let's go back to our alerts again. Who is the next one? Our good friend Nmap. We already know, we looked at this one earlier. So Nmap does generate a bunch. This is Nmap. This is probably Nmap 2. Let's see. I just like to do a quick drill down to see what it looks like. Is this Nmap or is this somebody else? Oh, this is Nicto. So all these tools that you pick from the internet, which makes us a script kiddie here, are what distinguishes the professionals from us doing this. Because a professional is not going to be running these tools directly, especially if they are trying to hide. Because as you can see, getting caught is just too easy. Right, let's go and see who is the third talker. This time, let's switch to Kibana. Let's switch this to the last 2 hours. We should still be good. And as you can see here, in the last 2 hours, let's remove the severity filters. I'm curious how much traffic we actually generated in 2 hours and what it looks like. It spiked here because we threw a bunch of DirBuster, Nmap, and all that stuff. Then all the rest, we're just manually doing things. Everything still looks the same here. But here is an interesting one, possible CVE. These ones are good. It even caught the CVE number that we exploited. So let's open this one in a new tab as well. And this one. We actually did catch a lot of interesting headers. We're doing things and how we did things. So this was a get. Who was this? Oh, this is from our exploit, I think. Yeah, this is when we ran the exploit. This is the actual exploit when it was executed. So it looks like someone created a rule to detect that CVE when it's exploited. Our very first initial shell that we got, that's where this one got caught. Let's look at the next one. This one, PHP mailer remote code execution attempt. This should actually be very verbose and tell us. This is when we exploited a PHP mailer. We did make a post. Remember, we uploaded. Oh, and let me move this up here. Look at this. I hope you can see this, because this is really cool stuff. Remember, I put my port 5353 earlier, and I edited this section of the exploit. Did see that, and it got caught here, which is kind of neat that we can actually see that. Then what do we have here? This is just a PWD. What were we doing that got caught? Let me move myself out of the way. Oh, the WP login when I was trying to... oh, this is when we tried to, when we were enumerating for some users, and it looks like this was WP login when we were brute forcing WordPress. What was this one? So I'm looking at the source and destination, make sure that I'm actually looking at the correct traffic. We did run an exploit. This was in plain text, so of course it will get caught. This is when we ran a post to the contact page. Again, here is our port 5353 to get our reverse shell. Man, this is really fun stuff. Okay, this is interesting, and I was very excited to see this. Remember, we actually did set up a Python simple HTTP server, and then we uploaded things. It looks like by virtue of uploading that file that we had compiled using GCC, we did get caught here. This is where I like to look at the message and the rule that fired, and this is a lot of information. But if you look in the message, you also notice that we do see some commands there, but we can see them here. Isn't this interesting that as the data was traversing through the network, we can see the commands that I was running as the attacker. This is when I created the table full. Actually, let's see if I can see a packet where, an alert where I created a different table. Let's create this one. Okay. This one is actually showing you the commands that the attacker ran. This is where I was saying, hey, we can check the version of Python. Hey, we can, I like to clear my screen so you see a few clears in there. Here's where I did a cat for the flag. And then the exploits. The idea here is, if we are actually viewing network traffic using network security monitoring tools like Security Onion with Zeek and Suricata, whether we are doing SSL decrypt if data is encrypted, or just we're sniffing plain text traffic, we can not only see connection data from Zeek, but Suricata can also capture these things if the rules are set up correctly. So that's the idea here. As you can see, this is what the attacker did, which you guys saw me do here. And this is an intrusion detection system showing us how it's done. This is us taking our learning to a whole different level, right? When you show up for an interview and you want to be a security analyst and you have this lab, it just shows a whole different ability to learn. That's different from someone saying, oh, I got my security plus, please give me a job, I can learn on the job. If you have this lab and you are actually playing with these packets, you're playing with network traffic, you are going to really learn a lot. And that's why these live streams that I do every Sunday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time are very, very interesting. And also, I hope you can continue to join me. Otherwise, that's what I had for today, guys. Thank you very much for joining. Someone had said they wanted to see how I have the lab set up. So I'll just go through that quickly here for their sake. Then we can call it a night. But this was a really fun machine. Thanks, BT. So here's the deal. There is the internet, which is my home network, by the way. This is not the actual internet. And then I have a firewall, which is OpenSense. I have a video that shows you how to set it up. Then I have a layer 3 switch, which is, I also have a video that shows you how to set it up, a whole series. Then on this switch, we are just mirroring traffic. This switch has an interface. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if I can switch scenes. So right back here, this way, that's the lab right there. There is a switch above there. Then there is a server all the way at the bottom. Server at the bottom is what's running Security Onion. It's a Dell server. That switch is just sending traffic to, you see where, let's see if I, right here, this is a desktop. This desktop is running Windows 10. And inside of that Windows 10, there is VirtualBox. And that's this right here. From VirtualBox, I'm sending that traffic through this switch to Security Onion. And on this switch, I'm sniffing the traffic. It's like a port mirroring. I'm just saying, hey, get all the traffic from this to that. It's a gigabit switch, so I don't have a lot of packet loss here, and it's not a busy switch. So every packet that goes from Kali to this machine is getting mirrored, sent directly to Security Onion. And in my VirtualBox, this is Raven2. And in my settings here, what you will notice is that in my network, it's just bridged, set to whatever interface is connected to this machine. Since it's bridged and it's on a default interface, I can get an IP address from the lab, I can send the traffic, and I can sniff the traffic. So that's the setup there. Let me know if you have any questions on that. Did you ever have trouble talking to the camera? How did you ever fix that? I don't mind talking to the camera. Like right now, I'm talking directly to the camera. It just comes with experience, I guess. But since I've been live streaming for over 2 years now, well, no, not 2 years, maybe a year and a half or so. I live stream like every Sunday, so you kind of get used to it. It's kind of weird because right now, technically, I'm talking to myself, even though I know there's 11 people who are watching right now. So I know I'm talking to you, but first time if you're in a room, it will be really weird for you to be talking to yourself. And I think I was just talking as if I was actually showing you VirtualBox. I think I was just saying, thinking you can see it. Now I know you can. Here's the network. It's bridged. And that's the same interface as what's connected to here, to the mirror. And it's a really fun lab. I think anyone who is just getting started, I highly encourage you to set up this lab. I cannot emphasize it enough. I'm actually in the process. I moved last weekend into this new room. That's why my background is a little different. Those 3 servers that are out there are going to be in a cluster, and it's going to be super fun to play around with it and add a bunch of containers. And I was thinking of OpenStack, but I don't like OpenStack anymore. Maybe Kubernetes. We'll see. Thanks, BT. I just painted this room darker. All right, guys. So that was our machine for the day. And if you joined late, I highly encourage you to watch. You'll definitely learn a thing or two from me, even the struggling with the exploits and everything. Otherwise, guys, please subscribe, like this video, let everybody know that this is a really good stream. Bring your friends next time. And I will talk to you guys next week if nobody has any questions. Oh, somebody says, isn't your server noisy? I don't know. Can you hear the server? If you can hear the server, I can put it, I can move it away, but I can hear it, but I don't know if this microphone is picking it up. All right, guys, give me a like. Otherwise, I will see you next Sunday where we have another machine and hopefully more interesting setup. Thanks for joining.